And just like that, we're back. I know y'all been waiting for another episode to drop. All my DMs are like, when's the next episode dropping? And I'm like, hopefully soon. We got so many cool episodes headed your way. Good guests, good topics, diversity in topics. And you know how much I love athletics. Mainly my two sports. Well, three sports are college wrestling, not in this order, ping pong, and my absolute favorite of all time is baseball. Baseball. I used to think I was so good at baseball. You hear my guest laughing on the other end because he knows he's actually seen videos of my swing. And I tell him that it's good, and he tells me I must be drinking too much Jack Daniels, which is the presenting sponsor of tonight's episode. Enjoy it responsibly. Tennessee Sour Mash Whiskey. Never allow underage drinking. Take Jack with you, but again, everything in moderation. He has been there for us so many good times and sad times and high times and low times. But one thing we keep in mind is the responsibility level of it, and we truly appreciate Jack Daniels and everything they stand for. My guest today, I've known a lot about Charlie Blackmon for a long time. I just met him 2.5 years ago. We hit it off. We got some mutual common bonds, including fly fishing, hunting. I love his nickname, Chuck Nasty. But let's just start this off. First of all, welcome, my man. How are you?
Hey, Chad. Thanks for having me.
I love your dude tonight, dude. You look like, I don't know what you look like, man. It's almost like the beard, the hair game, the mullet. I mean, it's looking stronger than ever right now. Look at that.
A mid-season form. Yes, sir.
It's not mid-season though.
It's either in season or it's not, and it is right now. So here we are.
Well, let's start off with this. You're off to would you say a slow start for Charlie Blackmon?
Yeah, that's an accurate description.
Okay, so last year you were off to one of the hottest starts in Major League history. I mean, it was almost like George Brett-esque, you know, when he was chasing Ted Williams. But for a long time, and it was the COVID season, but still, you were raking. What's the difference? I know that one thing's for sure, you probably don't stress out about it, right? Because it is what it is. You know you're going to end up around 300. It's just a matter of getting in the groove, or what?
It's a whole combination of things. If I could tell you exactly what it was, I would just fix it and get exactly 1.2 hits every night. You know, that's not feasible. But that's the beauty of baseball, right? Like, you just, any given day, any team can beat another team. And that's part of why we have to play 162 games. And even that sometimes doesn't tell us who the best team in the league is.
So do you get stressed? Does a guy that smiles as much as you, a guy that has such an unbelievable life, you've built this life, your lovely wife, your new puppy, you're close with your parents, you're a very successful Major League Baseball player, which is a dream of a lot of kids out there. Do you still get down, Charlie Blackmon, when you look at the papers and see somebody say something like, well, is age catching up with Chuck Nasty? Is he really Chuck Nasty at the plate anymore? Does it bother you?
Well, I don't really pay attention to what other people are saying. And yeah, I mean, I get stressed out. This is what I do, right? Like, this is one of the most important things in my life, and I'm super competitive. So I want to kick everybody's butt. And I think that's what you'll hear from people at the highest level, right? Like, it doesn't matter. I want to win every single time out, and that's not always going to happen, but I still think that drive is what helps people reach that really top level.
When you have your success, and I do want to get into the 2017 season just a touch, because you've already been there, done that a bunch, but that was still, I mean, if you look at the league leaders in 17, from triples to average to, runs scored to plate appearances, I mean, you were leading in everything. It was Altuve in the American League with Houston and Charlie Blackmon. And then, you had the big home run hitter in Miami that's moved on since then, and Giancarlo. But when you're at that level that you are, Charlie, is there anything a hitting coach can say to you? And I'm asking this for my own good, of like, when you're a high school kid, like, you've met my nephew on some FaceTimes, and by the way, he's absolutely raking, hit a big bomb on Saturday. You'd be proud of him. Was 7 for 7 on the day and a double dip. But,
wow.
Is there anything a hitting coach at that level? I know there's unbelievable hitting coaches at major league level and all the way through the minor leagues, but is there anything they can say to you, or do they just kind of leave you alone and let you find your way?
There's a lot, that relationship at that level. There's a lot of mutual respect. But a lot of what our hitting coaches do is help me in my preparation, right? Like I know what I need to do. I've been doing it for a while, and they're there to like supplement that, right? So they're helping me in the cage. They're helping me do the stuff that I feel like I need to do every day to perform on the field. And then if things are going great, they're there to, pat me on the back. If things aren't going great, sometimes we need to have have a little talk, or maybe they see something that I'm not feeling. But it's kind of a fluid situation. And I always say hitting is a moving target. It's you've never totally got it figured out. It's kind of like duck hunting. There's so many variables involved that most of the time it's this, and this, but sometimes it's like some of these things way down the list that are the difference between success and failure.
Is there anything that you do different that you realize or notice right now that you weren't doing last year? Or have you been in kind of the same, I don't know if it's just like your routine has been the same for years, because you're a multiple time All-Star. You're a Silver Slugger Award winner. You are a batting champion in the highest level of the game you can get. Has something changed in the last 60 days? Because you were hitting well in spring training, and then all of a sudden, does something just change, or do you what is it? Help me figure out what's going on.
No, I think that's just the nature of the game. There's ups and downs. You're going to be hot, you're going to be cold. And sometimes, last year, like we said, I just came out hot, and this year it's, I'm not as hot. And so I think, experience helps you narrow the gap from your peaks and valleys. Obviously I'd like those to be I'd like them to be more like all the way up here all the time, but that's not the case. And so when you have things like that, not everything is in my control. Sometimes the pitchers make good pitches. Sometimes it's snowing outside like it was today during our game. Sometimes there's just things you got to overcome. But I think it's important to fall back on controlling the controllables, right? Like I can only control my attitude, my preparation, my work ethic, that kind of thing. And once I feel like those are pretty good, my process is pretty good, and I have faith in the process. So I know that will produce success. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, but it's what I've relied on in the past, and it's served me well.
You say you trust in the process, Charlie, but you also have to trust in your upper management, from the head coach to the general manager, the guys making the decisions, the trades, the signings during the draft. You went through some stuff this offseason where the team lost some players. You're in the cellar right now, and I don't sugarcoat stuff because I know you're the same way. You're a competitor. You want to win. The Rockies are supposed to win. You're in the National League West that's got the returning, World Series champions. The Giants are even playing a little bit hot right now. It's 11-7 or something. But how does it affect a guy with your mentality? You're a lifelong winner, and I know that you have to fail to succeed. But what is the outlook like when you go to the yard and you feel like, well, some of the pieces just aren't there to put together a winning team? Or does that even enter your mind?
I do have a lot of confidence in our organization and the people that are making decisions. And I think, they're there for a reason, right? They're qualified to do their job, just like I'm qualified to do my job. And once again, a lot of that's not in my control, so for me to worry about that or like let that bring me down or affect my performance is unprofessional, for me. So my job is to win the game. Right. And it's me and 25 other guys. And that's our only job, and sometimes that means, moving a runner over with a ground ball to help us win the game. It doesn't always mean hitting a home run in the 9th inning. But it's there's a lot that goes into the game, a lot that people don't see behind the scenes. We don't show up at 6 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. I mean, there's a lot of guys working really hard, that wear that uniform.
You hear stories sometimes of veterans. Would you consider yourself a veteran at this time in your career?
I
Or
think so.
are you mid-range right now? I don't know if you're a veteran. I know that you've been there, done that. But
Yeah,
would you be identified or defined as a veteran right now?
I think so. I certainly, as I tell my one of my locker mates right next to me, I haven't peaked yet, just yet, or I keep telling them that I'm still on the way up. I'm still learning every time I go out there, and every at bat, I think I can learn something. So I think there's a lot of good baseball in front of me, but I do think, having done it for a while and being one of the older guys on the team, I think it's safe to say I'm a veteran.
So you hear these stories, Charlie Blackmon, sometimes of a veteran saying, I believe I just heard it in the NBA. Somebody was talking about how I think it was Harden said, signed this big deal with Houston, but then said, I have to be traded because I may or may not have very much longer on my contract, or in my career. I want to go to a winner. We don't have a chance to win in Houston. I want to go to a winner. Does that ever enter your mind that you have to get somewhere to win if you don't think that Colorado's the place?
I think the I guess we'll call it the culture, the relationships in the NBA is a little different. The teams are much bigger in baseball, and I think ultimately players want to win. And me personally, like, I'm super type A. Like, if we're not winning, it's probably because I need to be doing better as one of the guys on the team that's pretty recognizable. When things aren't going well, I assume that responsibility. I don't want to press the eject button and go somewhere else where the grass seems to be greener. No, I'd rather be the reason that we push forward and make strides, and then end up where we want to be as a successful team.
So if you're standing in right field and you're analyzing what is going on within the club right now, what is going on? Is what's missing? Are you not getting the big hit? Are you not doing station to station fundamental baseball? Are you not doing the little things? Are you leaving too many runners on base? Is your starting rotation and middle relief not there? Are you losing close games because your closers are giving them up? What's going on that you're seeing?
I think honestly, most of our losses are like 1 and 2 run games. And so that tells me a couple of things. A, we're competitive and we're close to where we need to be. And at that point, over the course of 9 innings, it looks like we need, that one extra hit with runners in scoring position, or we need to prevent that extra hit with runners in scoring position. So I think we're really close, and we've actually had the lead late a couple times and let it get away from us, or we've been trailing the whole game and just couldn't push that extra run across the plate. So I don't think it's certainly nothing to panic about. We're right there on the cusp of winning more games. And I think as we got a lot more baseball to play, it hasn't been hot yet. I think there's a lot of factors that are going to shake out in our favor over the coming months.
When you date a girl, and obviously you've had success because you're married and you have had a very good relationship with your missus, but there are times in your life to where there's breakups. Heartbreak is hard to overcome sometimes. Is there an emotional side of teammates that is hard to overcome when you lose your all-star third baseman, when Wade Davis goes back to the Kansas City Royals? Wade's a stud, nice guy, great reliever, great closer, great hunter. He's a friend of Charlie Blackmon. All these guys are your pals. And then all of a sudden, voila, this magician comes into the clubhouse and they disappear. Is it hard sometimes on your heart, Charlie?
Yeah. It's tough because when you go through so much with a teammate, and 162 games at the big league level is like a big hurdle that you overcome together. You become buddies with these people, their families, you know what they're like, how they're doing, when they're struggling, you get close to guys. And when they, the nature of the game, like players, change teams and, guys come and go, and, it's tough when that happens, but also for you to say that, and for me to look at it like that means that, well, heck, I've been here longer than most, right? Like, that's only a problem that people have who have been around for a while. And at that point, we've certainly taken a lot for granted, right? Like, I mean, it's, a lot of guys just want one day in the big leagues, right? And so these problems that that you're mentioning are only problems that you have if you've been in the big leagues for years and years.
Which is an unbelievable feat. But I'm trying to figure out where the mental part of the game comes in personally and emotionally, because so much of the athletic part of the game, that's a wrong way to phrase that, but the on-field part of the game, including the preparation, readiness, all of that, so much of it's mental. But then you have this whole other side of mentality that goes in to the emotional part, the love, the passion of the game. You might be having issues at home. You might miss a friend. You might have an ill parent. There's so many things that go into the mentality and the human psyche of the human brain. I'm just trying to figure out how you stay up, because the season is so long and the focus is everything. If there's no focus, you're not going to succeed in this game. It is the hardest game in the world to play, especially day to day at this level. I'm just trying to figure out the emotional side of it and the mental side that's outside of the chalk lines or the preparation of the actual game. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think you hear the term makeup, right? And that's right. You have tools and ability, which is over here. And like, I'm not going to lie, there's a lot of guys that have this, right? These are all the guys getting drafted, all the guys that are playing good college baseball. All of these guys have this. The thing that makes you successful at the big league level is this completely separate bucket over here, which is makeup. And that's, first and foremost, the ability to overcome failure. And that's all these things that you're talking about. Like, you've got to, it doesn't matter if your buddy just got traded, like, you've got to go out and you've got to do your job. And you've got to be productive, day in, day out. And that's something that's the reason we have like 6 different minor league teams, right? Like, we're trying to figure out who has the tools and the ability, which is a lot of guys, and then who has the tools and the ability and the makeup to become a big league player who can play in any circumstance and overcome, how hard it is to play in the big leagues.
So you're trying to tell me right now, Charlie Blackmon, that even if you're a 5-tool player and you might not have this bucket over here that's called makeup, chances are you might not succeed?
Sure. I think that's entirely possible. I've seen lots of players. I can name a whole list of guys that have, more power, more speed, all of the important tools. Yeah. Like your swing's not great, but there's probably some guys that don't have, that don't have the best swing, but they are really, really good mentally, and they have that great makeup, and it allows that maybe that fringe average ability. It allows that to jump up a couple notches and succeed.
So when you're a general manager, I would assume that, let's say Charlie Blackmon after baseball has a chance to become that Billy Bean or that guy that is looking. Is that what they're looking for besides the tools? Do they have the ability to say yes or no, this kid's got the makeup?
When I get the opportunity to talk to our scouting department, which is, rare, but it'll happen every year. I'll get to talk to some of our guys, some of our scouting directors, some of the cross checkers, all these guys that are scouting amateur players and even pro players that could possibly come over to our team. I hear more and more of these guys talk about toughness and makeup and things that maybe aren't necessarily something you can see on a radar gun or find on a stat sheet. Like, I'm seeing more and more focus on guys who are going to be able to develop rather than just guys who have apparent skills right now.
If you had to tell me a percentage of offensive players in the major leagues, and obviously you're probably going to know more about the National League because that's what you're seeing on a nightly basis, but there is interleague now. How many of the offensive players, Charlie Blackmon, play like Pete Rose or play like you that run it out, that still run it out? Like, that kid's watching in the stands. That little league team's here. You made a comment before we went to air tonight about, hey, you never know who's watching. There could be a kid. You got to represent it. So this game, you never put yourself above it. Nobody's bigger than baseball. Is there a percentage you could put your thumb on of people that play that way?
I think there's probably a handful of guys on every team that take that sort of thing to heart. And those are the guys that are the leaders in the clubhouse. Those are the guys that are the heartbeat of that clubhouse and that team. It's not everybody, right? I've seen some guys come and go. I've seen some guys, be there because of their natural ability and then not be able to stay or have continued success because they don't have the right attitude, or they're not a great teammate, or, there's lots of reasons why guys don't work out. But I think the reason that the guys do work out is they have, among other things, a lot of that grit and a lot of that ability to bring their best A game every day.
When you talk about waking up and having that grit, having that ability to bring your A game, kind of a comical question, and it has to relate to one of the guests I've just had here on the podcast recently. Do you ever wake up and find yourself telling yourself in the mirror, Charlie, you want to face Josh Hader today? Do you ever want to face Josh Hader? Or is the guy got a delivery that makes a left-hander like yourself go, okay, just let's not go to Milwaukee or have them come to town for a minute?
Good question. So, I'll come in first day of a series. I come in, I do the majority of my scouting on the first day of the series, watch video, look at scouting reports on every single pitcher they have. And inevitably I'll pick out, and it'll be these guys that, it would be obvious that they're having success as a pitcher, which makes it tougher on me as a hitter. And those are the guys right away that I say, this is the guy I'm going to face in a big spot where I really want to play well. And so I go ahead and put emphasis on that and know that, while maybe other people don't want to face this guy, I want that at bat, because that is going to be the most important at bat, and could be a bat that if I prepare well enough and do a good enough job, I can help us win the game.
So a guy I'm going back to Hader with that, he's got kind of a funky delivery that he hides the ball and it almost comes from behind your ear. It doesn't worry you. That's the Michael Jordan mentality of give me the ball with 1 second left on the clock.
Yeah. No, I think if you're worried, you're already failing,
What if he hits you though, Charlie? What if he hits you?
Then I go to first base and I have a much better chance of scoring.
You don't think you'll need surgery?
No.
No way?
I'm wearing a helmet. I got my elbow. I got all that kind of stuff.
Well, along those lines, Charlie Blackmon, give me some of those names real quick. Just real quick. Who are the guys that you'd love to face? Who are the tops right now in the National League that bring it to where you're like, I'd like to have a little AB against this cat right now? Is Hader on that list?
Yeah, he's certainly a good pitcher, right? He's a tough at bat for a lefty. He's a guy that you're going to see in a leverage situation. So I want as many leverage situations coming my way as I can get. And I'll be honest, I'm not about to give anybody the satisfaction of naming names on guys who I think are tough at bats.
Ooh,
I'm not going to do it.
Okay, I like it.
They can, who. I want to be the tough at bat for them. I'm not.
Do you hit a laser off the left center wall against Randy Johnson when he tries to bring you some heat on the outer half of the plate? Do you sit back, let the ball get deep, hit the ball where it's pitched, and hit one off the wall against Randy Johnson? We're not talking about current day players anymore, so you can at least tell me this, right?
Yeah, Randy's pretty nasty. It's pretty well known that he's pretty nasty. There's a good chance I strike out, but I think I'm a pretty good hitter. I think there's also going to be a chance in there that I hit one hard. What
makes you not say that, Charlie, but what makes you such a good hitter? Because your stats speak for themselves. You have a tendency, you had a 220 hit season. You've had several 180s and 190s. It's a lot of hits. It's more than a hit a game. You said 1.2 to start this podcast, but what makes you a good hitter? Is grit one of the main things that you just get it and you dig in and you let your talent speak for itself? Or do you have the best hands in the game? Do you have ungodly bat speed? What makes you a good hitter?
I don't think I would say that my tools are, I don't have more bat speed than these other guys. I think, what I do well is I control my mind pretty well. I'd like to think, so I don't let the situation get the best of me, right? Like I can, like a big situation, I don't get so geeked up with adrenaline that I can't think straight, right? Or that I just swing as soon as he lets it go, right? I think, having a lot of experience helps me be able to slow the game down, think slow but react fast. And then I have a pretty good feel for, what my swing looks like and what I want to do against a pitcher. I think I do a good job of watching video and understanding what that bat's gonna feel like, and then carrying that into the game, and then being able to execute an approach that I've already predetermined, and just do, play the numbers, right? Like I'm not trying to hit the super nasty pitch down and away at the knees, borderline pitch. Like if that's your approach, trying to hit that pitch, like things aren't going to go well, right? Like what I really want to do is I want to hit this pitch right in the middle of the strike zone, maybe 2 strikes foul off that nasty pitch, but I'm really trying to make it as easy as I can on myself and play the percentages, right? Like if I get one right here, that's when I'm going to hit it. And I'm trying not to swing at all these pitches on the edges to make an out, right? I'm going to try and let those go as much as I can. And then when I get this one, don't miss it.
So when you say don't miss it, does the mentality or does it mean anything anymore to be a hitter that, quote unquote, what I used to hear from scouts, they weren't scouting me, Charlie, they were scouting guys on my team, but maybe, use the whole field. Is that mean anything anymore, or is it all about the long ball? In our last conversation, you and I talked about, grip it and rip it, swinging up on the ball a little bit. What these kids are being taught these days, the fans want to see the long ball, the scouts want to see it. Power means a lot, but there's more to hitting than the long ball still, right, Charlie?
Right. So, I hit for some power, but I consider myself, an average hitter first. I want to hit for average. And what that means is controlling the whole strike zone, right? Like I said, percentages, right? If the plate's this big and I can only pull, right? I'm giving up everything over here. I'm only hitting 50% of the pitches, right? So what I really want to do is I want to be able to pull this inside half, but then also I want to be able to control the outside half and hit it where it's pitched, right? Like if it's away, I want to hit a line drive to the opposite field. And that way I'm not like giving the pitcher any easy outs, right? Like I don't want him to be able to execute a pitch and get me out. Like I don't want any holes on my scouting report. I want to be able to cover the whole zone. And that way he either throws a ball or he throws me something I can hit, right? Like I don't want there to be one place where if he can throw it, I can't hit it. So I think it's important to, know your swing, know what you're good at, and try and make sure that you can cover all of the strike zone, top, bottom, in, out. And then once you can do that, then you start thinking about power, right? Like it doesn't do you any good to have the most power on the team if all they got to do is throw a fastball away and they're going to get you out, right? Like you will never get to your power if you don't have at least some, hit for average ability.
I'm going to come back to that because I have a question that we've visited on before. I want to make sure that we're still on the same lines. But in your answer before, Charlie, you mentioned 2 strikes and fouling that good pitch off, and maybe the pitcher makes a mistake on the next one, giving you some leverage to hit the ball into the gap or over the wall or base hit, RBI, whatever. And when we're coming up as little leaguers and after Little League, we go to Babe Ruth, and then we go to the high school level, and then hope maybe we get drafted. If not, we go junior college or maybe D1, D2, D3, NCAA. We're always taught choke up, 2 strikes, choke up, spread out. Mm-hmm. Why don't major leaguers do that more? Why all of a sudden when you get to as good as you are, do you just lose that mentality that we were taught our entire lives?
No, absolutely not. So, I have a 2-strike approach, but mine is almost entirely mental. And you may not see it. Like we have some guys on our team that choke up and spread out or, and they have a lot of that. But for me, if I choke up, you won't know. Like for me to choke up, a quarter of an inch, you won't see it, right? Like for me, my 2-strike approach is maybe a little bit lower on my leg kick, right? It's much more subtle and a lot more mental for me. So I think ultimately I want my 2-strike approach to just be a really good version of my It doesn't matter what the counting approach is, right? Like ultimately, I'm trying to swing at the strikes, take the balls, and choking up isn't going to help me swing at the strikes, take the balls, right? So I think, I do what I need to do mentally to sharpen up a little bit and cover, once again, the whole zone. Like I don't want to get to a situation where I can only cover this part of the zone and not here. And so more of that, if I choke up, well, maybe I can't reach this outside corner as well. So for me, it's a lot more mental. I toyed around with some physical stuff in the minor leagues. At one point we had a rule where you had to do something physical. Like you had to let the manager know, hey, I know what the count is. It's 2 strikes. That's why I'm, choked way up off the knob.
Do you still believe, I got to go back to this, and we don't have to get into it because I know that everybody has their opinion on number 25 for the San Francisco Giants, but you just made mention of they take your pull zone away and they throw you on the outer half. Well, if you can't use the whole field and hit the ball the other way, doesn't necessarily mean you need to have oppo power or hit oppo bombs. But talking about Barry Bonds, one of the things that I always thought, Charlie, was he only really got one pitch maybe a night to hit, and a lot of times he hit it. Is that
Right.
fair to say? Because he was getting intentionally walked a lot. He was getting walked a lot. Not just intentionally, but, other kind of walks, bases on balls. Why is he considered a good hitter even though the asterisk is there?
So strictly looking at his performance, unbelievable, right? And I'll tell you, it's harder to hit when guys don't want to throw you strikes. Like when you're not seeing strikes, it's hard to know exactly where the strike zone is because you're seeing so many pitches on the periphery. Like it's really hard to hit and do what he did. So that being said, he's clearly like one of the best performances for a career. But on the other hand, he had a really good chance of feeling great every night. Right. And so like the difference between me last year hitting really, really hot to start with, and then me like cooling off, like there's less of a chance of anybody ever cooling off when you feel great every night, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I know that you are a guy that really looks after your physicality or your in-season, your in-season success depends a lot on how good a shape that you're in.
Oh yeah.
Without what we're talking about there, 162 days of work, grinding work, not even counting the mental side of it. Give me some of your secrets. Let's just have a little fun time. What is your favorite pre-game meal? And with your metabolism, can you eat whatever you want? I know that you could probably eat fried chicken, but you stay away from that before the game, right? Or what's your favorite? And talk to me a little bit, Charlie Blackmon, on how important nutrition is during the season.
The nutrition is a big part of it, right? Like my body is what I do. I need to make sure I'm putting good fuel in my body. And maybe more important than that is the times and amounts that I'm putting in my body, right? So if it's before a game, I usually try and eat some carbs because that's going to be like my sustaining, 9 innings of energy. And then I'll eat some protein because I want to keep my muscle on my body. And then a lot of times I'll eat a banana or I'll eat some fruit or I'll eat something that has sugar in it to give me energy right now, right? To bridge the gap between, it's going to take you 45 minutes, an hour to digest those carbs. That energy is not going to kick in till the 3rd inning. So maybe I need to eat something to get me to inning 3. And then, just as important as a pregame meal is a postgame meal, right? Like I've just burned 3.5 hours of energy and I'm drained. I need to start refueling my body right away because we got another game in, sometimes 12 hours.
Staying on the subject of food, you get to go to a lot of cool cities. I could name a lot of good restaurants and a lot of cool places you visit. Is there a favorite after game or right when you get there, you're rolling to Caesars in San Francisco or somewhere in downtown St. Louis. There's some great steakhouses there. Give me an idea of your favorite city based on the culinary aspect.
So in season, I hate to admit it, but if we're on the road, I almost always eat the hotel breakfast. So like room service. So that way I can sleep, I can get extra sleep, which I think is a benefit, obviously. And then I almost eat every meal at the clubhouse after that, except for occasionally it'll be like we'll play a day game, we'll travel to a new city. And then there's like, we have that evening to go eat. And that's when the boys team up and we're like, hey, we're going to go crush a steak, and there's a couple cool places that we like to eat. There's a place in Milwaukee that has a steakhouse with my name on it.
What do you mean with your name on the menu?
No, like if I go to this place in Milwaukee and when I go there, they will go to the back and get the knife that has my name engraved on it and bring it out so that I can cut my steak.
Wow. Why did you tear up the Brewers one night and they're like, we got to give Charlie his own knife?
I don't know. I don't know what qualifies you as like getting your own knife. They must have like for me to get one, they must have like quite an extensive library of knives back there. But I do look forward to like when I go to Philly, I eat a lot of cheesesteaks, in the locker room. When I go to San Francisco, they know that like, funny story, the San Francisco, it's not one of my favorite places to play. It's always cold and cloudy. I like sunny and bright. And the one of the things that I really look forward to in San Francisco was these big, huge, like Texas Danishes that they had in the locker room, because that's where I eat all my meals. And a couple of years ago, we cleaned up the diet in the locker room, right? So they did away with a lot of the candy and snacks and junk food and stuff. And so I like threw a hissy fit one time because they didn't have the big Danishes, because like that's what I look forward to. That's part of my routine. I come to San Francisco, I eat the big Danish. And they did away with them. And I got all upset about it. And now, like for the past 2 years, every time I go, they put a huge like Sam's Club box of like Danishes in my locker, like 30 Danishes. And so I got Danishes for like the next week and a half. Pretty funny story, but if you come to my locker in San Francisco, you can have a Danish.
You're kind of a country boy. So does anybody ever, is it ever like you get an invite to where you're like, no, man, I can't do that. I would never eat that. Is sushi on that list? Is there any food that you're like, not a chance? Let's say that one of your good buddies and maybe a visiting team or on your team says, hey, we're in LA tonight. There's a great sushi bar in Seal Beach, or we're down in Miami tonight. There's a great Cuban restaurant. Is there any kind of food that you're just like, nah, man, it doesn't agree with me, or I can't stand the taste of it?
There's not a lot that I don't like, or there's not a lot that I want to at least try a couple times, and I think sushi, I used to not like sushi, but as it turns out, like sushi is great for you. And like raw fish things that are raw are easier to digest. And so like, I know that it's like good for my body for me to eat sushi. And so I'll eat that, but no, I don't. More likely is instead of like turning up at something, I'll tell our chef here in Denver, I'll be like, hey, I told him the other day, I was like, what would be really great is if we come in for this day game and we got some grits on the line. Like that would be awesome. And sure enough, they made me like a huge pile of grits. I requested some black-eyed peas, which I guess they don't have those out here or something. Like,
no,
I love them. I haven't seen them out here in a while. So I requested some of that, with some cornbread, which I also don't see a lot of out here. And so every now and then it's nice to have some like comfort food. So I'll request it.
Is it safe to say that music, you look at your character of Chuck Nasty and your haircut and your beard and everything, you look like you would enjoy some music. I would say probably outlaw country to some good 90s country to some Pantera to some good rock music. You probably work out to some Slipknot or Metallica, but you like to get down at home with the wife with some John Party. Is music play a big role in Charlie Blackmon's life?
Yes and no. Like in the locker room, in the weight room, on the field, there's always music playing. I mean, like always. We have iPads. You hooked up to all the speakers. I mean, there's always music. Me personally, I'm not like super into it. Like when I get in my truck, I Pandora, George Strait radio, like pretty bland, like classic stuff. I'm not into the trying to find the newest song or this and that. I was kind of into rap in high school. I just can't keep up. There's just so many, and they come and go so fast. Like I'm kind of now leaning more towards the classics.
Staying there, Charlie, has there ever been a time in your career to where you're like, wow, it could have been AAA, AA, I don't care where you're at. Could have been when you're in the little podunk town. Has any walk-up song ever, or a closer coming out, ever made you go, man, that's really clever, that's really good? Is there a favorite walk-up song of anybody on your teams in your career or opponents that you're like, man, that's a good walk-up song?
Jason Giambi used to have a really cool walk-up song. And I think it was like his buddy made it for him. Like, I don't even think it was like a real song. I don't think you could find it if you wanted to find it.
I'm trying right now.
And so his
when he was with Oakland?
Awesome.
Is it when he was with Oakland?
He had it. We played together in Denver, and he had it there. But I think he probably had it other places. But it's much more likely that people listen to a walk-up song and be like, that's a terrible walk-up song.
Man, I don't know. I can't. It doesn't jump out, man. I'm not seeing it. But you can't think of any off the top of your head that stood out?
No, I can't. No. Funny enough, like I don't like really associate, people with songs or whatever. But, growing up in Atlanta, I do know that the Ozzy Osbourne song was definitely Chipper Jones's walk-up song for a long time. And like, everybody knows, like Chipper's coming to hit, like that was his song.
Crazy Train.
I think the Crazy Train, Ozzy Osbourne. And so that was like of my youth, like that was the walk-up song for sure.
All Aboard. Oh, it was called Please Forgive Me. Wow, it was his walk-up song was Please Forgive Me by Bryan Adams, is what this says. And Roger Clemens made fun of it. I don't know. I'm talking about Giambi.
I mean, it starts with it sounds like a dinosaur roaring, it starts with this like crazy weird sound. And I just thought it was really cool.
And that was Giambi.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to test you and see if it's it. That can't be his walk-up song.
Definitely not.
No way.
Definitely not.
There's no way Jason Giambi comes out to that. This has to be a wrong website. Has to be.
I mean, he played forever, it seems like, so he probably had a couple of them.
I wonder if these are walk-up songs that they want to give people. Who knows? Oh, I think they are jokes. Buster Posey's is Crash Into Me. That's got to be in reference to his injury. That's rude and uncalled for. Matt Kemp, Threat. Carlos Zambrano, Kill 'Em All from Metallica. John Lester, I Will Survive. I guess, I don't know. David Ortiz, Big Papa from Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah, they're just pairing people with the most likely.
Bryce Harper, You're So Vain. You probably think this song is about you.
Yep,
they probably nailed that one.
Yeah.
Ryan Braun, I'm Too Sexy for My Shirt. Anyway, I got a couple questions for you here that I was thinking of, because I always like to know what big gamers are always, the fun part of the game. The beard. I just shaved mine off. I had it going pretty good, Charlie. Chuck Nasty. I didn't have that. And I had too much gray in it, which someday you might.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't think it is either. But when I got so much in there, I was like, but anyway, after hunting season ended, I'm like, you know what? It's beach season. It's pool season. I'm taking it off. Does it ever bug you, scratchy, itchy? Does it get in the way? Does your wife complain about it? Does your mom ever say, look, Charlie, it's time to get rid of it? How long does it go? Are you going Billy Gibbons, ZZ Top here?
I keep it. I mean, it's pretty long, but if I were to let it go like much longer, it gets like pretty ratty and I just look like a wet cat, like all the time. So, it's pretty much a part of me now. Like I've had it since 2014. My wife's never seen me without it. My grandmother hated it. Even mom was a little bit critical. I think she's come around now. But I'm pretty much, I'm committed. Like this is me now.
Committed for what? Life?
At least the next few years. Like if you see me on TV, I'm going to have a beard. Like that's pretty much how it's going to go down for the next little while.
Okay. Let me ask you this then. If you happen to get into I don't know if the Yankees still have that rule, but at one time it was no facial hair. What if they said the Yankees gave you a big time contract? And I know you're not a guy to leave the Rockies, but what if the team had a no facial hair policy?
Well, I will say that I'm, like my beard is not more important than the team, whatever team that is.
Do you look good without a beard, Charlie?
I think I was a pretty handsome man for a while there.
Well, then you'll be all right.
I think I'll be okay. Yeah.
You have a nice head of hair, you lucky son. That's a nice head of hair.
Still holding on to that.
Is your mom's dad, was he bald or is he bald? Your grandpa on your mom's side?
He does not have a lot of hair.
Oh, buddy.
He has some hair. It's pretty thin. And
that's where it comes from.
I know that's what people say, but Dad's dad had a lot of hair. And I'm hoping my hair game takes after him.
Talk to me a second about the fans. What's the culture like right now in the stadium? You went from spring training in Scottsdale, Phoenix area. There was a few of them around. Is it better than last year? Is there talk of being full capacity this year?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of time. It's just so much better having fans in the stands, right? That's why we play the game, right? If people decided they didn't want to watch baseball, we wouldn't have a game. I wouldn't have a job, right? And that's part of the game, that interaction, that player fan interaction. So it's so much better having people in the stands. And, I can't wait till we get back to full capacity. I want everybody to come experience a baseball game. I want people to be able to bring their kids. I don't want to have to worry about only being able to buy like 2 seats, together and then leaving a gap. Like I don't like that a whole lot. The game's meant to be played in front of a crowd.
Do you recall any interaction in your career with a fan? You've seen fans streak, you've seen them run on the field, you've seen players tackle them, you sign an autograph and hand it to a kid. Is there anything a mom has said to you after you've taken care of their son or daughter, or a dad has come up to you? Or has there been any funny or humorous interactions that you recall where a fan was like giddy over you? Or is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I got a good one. I'm in San Francisco. I just eaten a Danish. I'm stretching out before a game. I see this nice couple. They're clearly like on a date. Like this is a great date, by the way. Baseball game is awesome. Mm-hmm. So I'm stretching just down the line, just beyond the dugout. This guy, they're sitting, and he lets the lady sit inside of him, I guess, being like nice, thinking, oh, well, like I'll let you sit closer to the plate. I don't know. I almost never, when I'm like warming up, I don't like try not to like look into the stands and get distracted or anything. I just happen to look up, and in my mind, I was like, he should probably sit inside of her in case like a ball comes over. He needs to like get up and, like wear it, like that would be the most manly thing ever on a date. Just like wear a line drive to protect your lady. And so that popped into my head, like whatever, no big deal. Game starts. Fastball inside to me, crush it foul. Sure enough, hits the poor girl right in the shoulder because the guy wasn't sitting on the inside. And it went, and it was like, it hit her. And I was like, no doubt. I was like, that's the girl. Like, that's the girl I saw before the game. Just drilled her with this foul ball. And it's all his, thought he was doing the right thing, but he should have known better.
Is it a
Should have known
laser?
better.
Is it a laser line drive that goes past the dugout and down the right field line into the stands there, or is it over the top of the dugout? How close are they sitting?
No, I think it was like I do think it was like a top spin, bounced on the warning track, which is hard, and then like went into the stand. So she was okay,
And
but
smoked it.
it's gonna leave a mark. But now they've done a pretty good job. They've got the netting that goes like it, most of the way down the line, so that like the ones that can really hurt people, like the screaming line drives that don't hit the warning track, those were hurting people. And they put the nets up almost at every stadium now to protect the fans.
I've been to a lot of after parties for celebrations, championships, might be a business deal that was locked in and signed, might have been an MMA or a boxing match, and I was lucky enough to be invited to the after party, quote unquote. I've been to ones where it's a rave. I've been to ones where it's like a Vegas style club scene with rap music going on and hip hop and just beat and you're dancing. I've been to Matt Hughes when he beat Matt Serra in Vegas. He took us to this little podunk country bar on the strip. Like you could fit 8 people in there and they were all smoking cigarettes. And I'm like, after party? Like I'm at the UFC and it was just like the most low key jukebox shooting pool kind of deal. To each their own. Walk off home run by Charlie Blackmon, or you win the World Series. What kind of celebrator are you? But you cannot include the wife and the family. I know you're a family man. I know they're going to be there. But if it has to be a party celebration atmosphere, what does Charlie Blackmon choose?
I'll tell you what, the greatest celebration, the first time I made the playoffs, which was, like 6 or 7, years into my career, we had worked really hard to get there. And you see that a lot of times they get the cameras in the locker room, you see them pop the bottles and all that kind of stuff. And that's not why I play the game or anything like that. But it was cool to do it when you make the playoffs, you clinch that spot and you pop champagne with your teammates. Well, the first time I did that, like the first time I got to do it, I thought it was going to be like a 5-minute thing. You pop, you spray, like whatever. And I couldn't be more wrong. I mean, it was man, it was way intense. I mean, we were going at it. There was a lot of beer being thrown about, like way more than I didn't hardly drink any of it because I was just spraying it everywhere. But we went nuts for like, I don't know. It could have been an hour. It could have been like 5 hours. I don't know what it was, but I'd never been so exhausted in my life. Like the next day, it was just so emotional, so intense. That was the craziest, best celebration of my life, probably.
When you celebrate the career of Charlie Blackmon and you look back on it, I think of guys like George Brett that played 20 years for the same organizations, won a World Series, MVP, Silver Sluggers, All-Star games, Pine Tar incident. George went through a lot, but he always stuck it out with one team, and he's still there. If you go to spring training, if you go over to Surprise, Arizona in February and March, you're going to see George's car parked in George Brett's parking spot a lot of days. Not this year with COVID, but most years. What is it about Denver that you like? It snowed today and it's almost May. The ball flies out of there, they say, like crazy. So your pitchers are at a disadvantage all the time. Could help you out, but I don't think you're going to pick it for that. The skyline's beautiful. The Rocky Mountains are unbeatable. The Front Range is gorgeous. The sunsets, Estes Park. Are the fans good in Colorado? Did John Elway and Peyton Manning have a good time with the fan base in that area? What do you love about Denver?
Well, initially, right, Denver chose me, right? So I'd never been to Denver, I'd never been to Colorado. Like they were the first team, they drafted me higher than anybody else. So they committed to me first. And so, that's a big deal in my book, right? Like that goes a long way to me. Like I'm a pretty loyal guy. And so, I've just grown to love everything about it. never caught a trout until I came out here. And now it seems like that's all I want to do. We have an off day tomorrow. I'm going up to the mountains, going to try and catch a trout. Going to take my new dog, my lab, up there, see how he does in the river. The people are super laid back and they enjoy being at the game. And it's a really great place to be. If you like the outdoors, it's an even better place to be. There's just so much to like about Denver. I mean, it's easy for me to just hop on the bandwagon. After they chose me, like I chose Denver right back.
So is it a loyal fan base? Is it a baseball knowledgeable fan base like I would say St. Louis is? Is it a passionate fan base, or is it a front-running fan base? And I don't expect you to answer that last part, but what kind of fan base is it?
We draw really well all the time. I think people, it is one of the greatest places to drink beer outside. Like I'll admit that. Like there's a lot of people that are there just for the experience that maybe aren't huge baseball fans, but that's not the majority, right? By and large, like people like baseball there. And I know that because like whenever we have teams from really anywhere, but especially the Midwest, like the Cubs or the Cardinals or something, you'll see like a lot of Cubs and Cardinal fans show up, right? These are people that live in the city that are, because Denver's like made of so many transplants, right? Like you got people just moving there because it's a great place to be. And, they like the game. And so when their team comes in, they come watch the game, but it's a good fan base. We draw really well. And they, it's not just when the Rockies are making the playoffs.
You mentioned the new pup, Black Lab. 2.5 weeks ago, I was down in Patterson, Georgia. I saw some pictures of you on Brad Arrington's personal baseball field with the team. What'd you think of Brad and Miss Ellen and the entire aura and culture of Mossy Pond?
So Brad Arrington of Mossy Pond Retrievers, who I met through you, he's a great person, like salt of the earth. Like I was there. He had me over to his house to eat with his family, and I'm hanging out with the kids. Just a great person. Outside of that, he's obviously a really good dog trainer. Like I'm super impressed with my dog. Any issue pops up, I text him or call him like, hey man, what do I do about this? How do I clean this up? And he's a really awesome guy that I wish I had more time to hang around.
Well, I wish I had Charlie Blackmon say that about me. In a way, I'm not a jealous, envious guy. I'm saying that I've invited you on some trips, and I'm going to invite you on another one right now because you mentioned this steakhouse in Milwaukee. You mentioned this custom, personalized, engraved knife. Does it have your jersey number on it too?
No, I don't think it does.
Is it your signature or just your name and font?
I think it's just my name. I don't make it to Milwaukee but once a year. So like I don't have a great picture in my mind of what the knife looks like, but it cuts the steak really well.
Okay, I have an unbelievable hunt planned in Wisconsin in November. It's after the World Series if you guys happen to be there, which I hope you do. I'm wearing my Rocky shirt right here. Can you
see that?
See that?
I see that. Looks good.
Whole squad ready. Can you give me an answer for November, or is there something that can come up? It's pre-Thanksgiving, and it's a legit hunt with lodging and food and an unbelievable time.
I think we can make that work. So last year you invited me to come to California, which is really far from Atlanta, and we had our daughter was born, last winter, and we had the puppy. We had a lot going on, but I think this year maybe we can move some things around for you.
All right. I'm planning on Wisconsin because I really think you would enjoy this style hunt. I'm not going to let it out on the air of what it's going to be. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's waterfowl hunting, but I don't want to give up the spot or the people we're going to be with because it's really, really legit. So I would love to have you there. What's the outlook now? You're going fly fishing tomorrow. When you're on the water, you're nymphing, you're dry flying, You have a locator. I don't know exactly how you're going to be fishing. I don't know the clarity of the water or the depth or the flow. I don't know the water levels. I don't know if it's a creek or a river. I don't know if it's browns or rainbows. I don't know what you're chasing. But I do know that there's so much strategy that goes into fly fishing. And I'm talking like legit focus, or you will not succeed. It's almost pretty much hunting fish, matching the hatch, and such an awesome style of catching fish. Whether you catch and release or eat them sometimes, that's not what we're talking about here. But does it take your mind off of what's getting ready to happen the next day and what happened tonight? Can it do that 100%? Or are you sitting there thinking about the fastball that you didn't see or the fly ball that you didn't run down after when you're trying to strip or you're casting?
No, that's the great thing about fishing for me, fishing, hunting, whatever it is. And, like fly fishing is, one of my favorite things to do. And a big part of it is, number one, you're always somewhere really awesome, right? Like you're either up in the mountains somewhere really pretty, or, even in saltwater. I mean, you're somewhere exotic. Like it's great. And there's so much happening around you, right? You're in there in nature. You're trying to figure out these wild animals. I mean, there's just so much that goes into it that you can't possibly worry about, the stresses of everyday life. And that's a big part of why I do it. I also like it because it's super difficult. Like I love fishing for my entire life until I was in my mid-20s. And then for some reason I was like, I'll give it a shot. And it's taking something that I love, fishing, and then making it ridiculously, somewhat unnecessarily hard. But I really enjoy the challenge. Like that's a big part of it. And even when you're not catching fish, you're practicing, right? You're still casting, you're still in nature. Like if you're duck hunting, maybe you don't shoot a duck. You're still out there somewhere really beautiful, watching the sun come up. You're, blowing on your call, trying to get better, learning more about the wind and the weather and how these wild animals act.
I love all that. There's a lot of similarities in baseball and fishing and what you said about duck hunting. I love that part of the game. Man, you're the man, dude. I love the idea that you have all of these just qualities that might not necessarily be on the outside of everybody watching you on a daily basis. If somebody takes the time to get to know Chuck Nasty, it's amazing to see how many different layers of people there really are when you peel back that onion a little bit. And I think that that's what Conversation Charlie does. It allows me to like get inside your brain a little bit about baseball, but also you're just a dude that likes to be at Mossy Pond. Like I just was like a dude loving to be at Mossy Pond. And we tend to put our celebrities and our heroes and our baseball players on a pedestal. We have done that our whole lives. Like there's people that would do anything. There's this movie, I believe it's called The Fan, with Robert De Niro and Wesley Snipes. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes plays for San Francisco, I think. There's fans that are nuts about you guys, but y'all are just dudes that were given a certain skill set that you have succeeded with and excelled with, which is awesome. And it's an unbelievable skill set. But when it comes down to it, you're just Charlie Blackmon where you're sitting right now to your old lady, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I still got to brush my teeth. I still got to wash my sock, like I do I'm like, just a normal guy. Just, instead of going to work at 9 a.m., I go to work at, like 1 p.m., kind of like that.
It's not really swing shift or graveyards. That is swing shift. Is that swing shift?
It's kind of like the late shift. Yeah. Night shift.
Yeah. Night shift. Yeah. It's not graveyard, but it's the swing shift, I think. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the clock. I don't know it, but I will argue this before we get off this podcast. And when we're together the next time, I'm going to take some hacks because George Brett told me I have a pretty swing and he was sober and it was during the day and Mike Sweeney was throwing to me and I was hitting cage bombs. A lot of them would have went out of any park with a good stiff wind.
I'm sure. That's the beauty of hitting in the cage.
All right, my man. Is there anything that you can leave the audience with that's just a Chuck Nastyism? Is there something that's on your mind right now? Is it don't eat yellow snow, or is it hit off the tee as much as you possibly can? Give me one piece of wisdom from the mind of Chuck Nasty. I know I'm putting you on the spot and it's late
Yeah,
night.
maybe why are you doing what you choose to do? Like
Ooh.
you do a lot of things. Like I do a lot of things, and I'm like, why did I, why do I do that? Why did I just spend an hour on my phone scrolling? Like was I just filling time, or did I have a goal? And if you didn't have a goal, it's probably not something you need to be doing.
I want you to critique me after you just asked that question. And I don't care if people write in and say that was kind of pretentious or whatever the word is. But because of you, I was mentioned on the Rich Eisen show, and I've been mentioned again since then. We were just in the New York Post.
Oh, cool.
It's a neat feeling. It's really cool. I know that you are in papers all the time. I know that your name's all over Google. But you've been interviewed by the best of the best in every city in America, from every publication, from The Athletic to Sports Illustrated, you name it, you've been there. Mm-hmm. My interview style, the questions I ask, are they good, or are you just doing this because we're friends?
I think that you put a lot of time into preparing, right? You're not like fumbling.
I 100% swear on my daughter, and she's in my house sleeping right here close to my podcast studio, that I did not research one thing except I came up to date a little bit on exactly what you led the league in 17. 100% of the rest of the podcast was completely winged.
Really? Well, I'm impressed. So you did ask like super insightful questions, right? Like, we have media here in Colorado, and a lot of times I find myself answering questions that, like I would not be interested in reading that article. Like I really don't. But you ask some questions that are like, okay, like, yeah, sure. Like whatever, he's a good hitter, or he's been good in the past, or, he's going to be good in the future, whatever, like good player. But like why? Like what makes him this way? Like tell me some interesting experiences, So I think there's some good insight there. I feel like you got to teach me something about like duck hunting. Like, like I feel like people are coming to your podcast because they like waterfowl hunting, and they're going to get blindsided with some guy talking about baseball the whole time. Like, what if they don't like baseball?
But that's why we
got to throw in some duck hunting.
We sistered off. Well, let's plan another one on the Foul Life podcast. This one was the more of the baseball side, the humanistic side of Charlie. I've done podcasts with you on the Foul Life, which you're right. You're so right, because when I started This Life Ain't For Everybody, it was like a musician, and then it was a baseball player, then it was a military guy, then it was a brain surgeon, then it was a fighter pilot, and then it was this little duck hunter from Arkansas, and then it was an athlete. And I was getting all these remarks like, whoa, you're a duck hunter. We need more duck hunting. So we sistered off of This Life Ain't For Everybody and started the Foul Life podcast. And now we've sistered off of that and started Where the Pavement Ends, which is big game, turkey hunting, predator hunting, ballistics, rifle shooting, archery, all of that. So we're busy with the podcast, but you're dead on, Charlie, of like people wanted more of that duck. And I know that when we bring you back on the Foul Life, we'll have a lot. That's why I didn't really get into the puppy and the dog training and all that, because I do want to talk hunting and figure out what questions you have for me on what you're experiencing now in the duck woods and with the duck call or the shotgun or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm always curious of like, if my questions are too much of like, well, why is he really asking what my music is? Nobody cares. I just kind of like try to set the tone of like, I want to be Charlie Blackmon a lot of times, because my number one goal in life was to make the majors when I was a kid. When I played college baseball, which I was a way overachiever then, which I'm pretty sure you can tell, my college coach, Fred Dallimore, who's still now to this day 77 years old, and he comes to my birthday party every year. He speaks at a lot of events for me. He called me in 1994 the worst recruiting mistake that he ever made. That's a low blow, Charlie.
That's impressive. I mean, that's the one single guy that he's going to remember that.
And he's in the NCAA Hall of Fame. He coached a long time. He called me the worst recruiting mistake he ever made because I got backdoor picked off at second base by the catcher against San Jose State in Stockton, California, and he never let me live it down. But I always wanted to be a ball player. So when I talk to you guys, I don't want to come off like, bam, 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 teach me baseball, or I want to know everything about what baseball's doing for you, because, man, that would be like sitting around with a boxer and just being like, well, what's your combination and what's your favorite way to jump rope and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. Like, you can go watch all the baseball games you want, but I think it's cool when people feel like, oh, I can relate to that guy. Like, yeah, he, brushes his teeth, like whatever. Like, I think I like to see people who I like hold in high esteem and then realize like, oh, we have something in common,
I'll tell you what baseball player didn't brush his teeth. His nickname was Nails. Does that ring a bell?
No.
Nails. Outfielder, New York Mets, and then Philadelphia Phillies. Lenny Dykstra, his nickname was Nails. He did not brush his teeth.
Well, that's kind of gross.
I think he lost his jaw and all of his teeth to the big chaws he used to keep in because he didn't take care of his personal hygiene in the mouth. I'm just throwing that in there. They said that when you would go to Veterans Stadium in center field, the AstroTurf would be like soggy and bogged down with chaw spit from Lenny Dykstra. That's gross, right, Charlie?
That's a little much.
That's a little much, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I do want to get to know you on a different level. I do know you on a different level, but I think it's so interesting that you told me tonight that, and I don't know if you're being serious, but I don't think you've reached your prime yet. I don't think you're a veteran. I don't know. I
still have a lot to learn.
I don't think you're a veteran, bro. I really don't.
I think I'm going to put it all together soon. I wake up every day and I'm still searching for the perfect day, like the perfect game. Like I'd love to go out there, play the perfect game, and then come back in and be like, I did it. Like I did it. It's just,
Has it ever been done by any player in the history of the game, you think?
Yeah. I think it has. Probably has.
A pitcher throwing a perfect game. I'm not
saying you got to hit five, go 5 for 5 with 5 homers, but like go out there and like in my mind, like not make a mistake, right? Like don't swing at a ball, like every swing was a perfect swing, don't make an error. Every read was perfect on the base paths. Like I still think every time I put on the uniform and I get upset when people like don't understand this. Like you have a chance to make history. Like you do every day you have a chance to make history.
100%.
And if you don't, if that doesn't get you going, like maybe it's not, maybe you need a new job, like, I don't know. Like I don't know. I think that's something that people at a really high level constantly think about, I guess. I don't know.
In 10 years, when you get inducted into Cooperstown, being for real, who would you like to induct you if there was one person? Is it family member or is it teammate? Is it a coach?
Oh, man.
Is it a mentor? Live or dead? You can bring him back from the dead to do it. Who would it be to induct Charlie Blackmon into Cooperstown?
I mean, cliche, but like my family, my mom and my dad, if they were both there, that would be, and my sister and my wife, like those, like it's just, there's a lot that we've been through together, ups and downs. And like that's, that's my support system. That's part of what makes that makeup, right? Like, your past experiences, I was lucky enough to come up with a super supportive family. And, like that's got a part of the reason that like I've been good at something, and so I don't think I could go through that without them, there knowing that they, I appreciate what they have done for me.
I love it.
Not to get like soggy on
No,
you.
I love it. I love that part of you that it's not pretentious to me at all. Have you ever been asked to put any part of your uniform or a bat or anything that you into the Cooperstown?
They took a pair of my socks one time to like just like, I think every organization has like kind of like a current mix and match of like current players. I don't know. It's, it was cool. They asked me like, hey, we want a pair of your socks, from this day in history. And so like I gave them my socks and they put them,
what'd you do that day?
They put them on display there.
What'd you do that day?
I don't remember.
Really?
I don't think it wasn't like from a game I did something spectacular. I don't think. I think it was more from like a 4th of July game and we were wearing like Stars and Stripes socks or, something like that, which is also pretty awesome.
Final question. It's Friday night, movie night. You're chilling, but it's with your boys. You're hanging out and you want to laugh. No, you just want to watch the best damn baseball movie of all time. Name it.
Ugh.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe there's even a discussion on this. I didn't think you'd even have to think about it.
No, I got it. I mean, I was going to go, like, before you said baseball movie, I was going straight to Top Gun. Like, that's the best
you're
movie
going
there is.
straight
That's
Top
all you
Gun,
need.
Maverick. I follow.
Yeah. Can't wait for the second one to come out this summer. Anyway, that's not a plug, but my favorite, I got two. It's like two neck and neck. It kind of depends on what mood I am. Everything else is like far and away, like below it.
Can I guess?
You can guess.
Field of Dreams.
One is from like my childhood and one is from my adult.
Oh, then it's Roy Hobbs, The Natural, and Major League.
No.
Neither.
Neither.
Wow, those are my two favorite baseball movies.
No. Major League, great. Major League would be number 3.
Whoa, now we're disagreeing. Like, no way. That movie, they got chili dogs over there. Dude, I can recite that movie. It's so good. What is number 1, Charlie? You're going to say Bull Durham or Field of Dreams.
So it's The Sandlot and Bull Durham for me.
Ooh, I love The Sandlot.
I just love, and this is what I told you, like Bull Durham is minor league baseball. Like, so that's real. It. Like, that's the love of the game. Like, that's the grind. You know, it's not, you know, the money and the models and the big league. You know, it's like riding on the bus with that guy who won't shut up with his guitar, and the one guy, you know, you hit the bull, you know, you eat a steak. Like, that's baseball for me. You know, like that's just loving the game. And I mean, that's where I'm coming from.
I like it. I would not argue either one of them. They're both great. I just have a huge romance with Major League. I'll tell you though, a month and a half ago, do yourself this favor if you have time. I sat with my assistant and her 2 boys, which one of them is getting ready to try out for his high school baseball team. Well, he's going into next year. He'll be trying out for his baseball team. So we're trying to get him prepared through his last season of Babe Ruth. But we watched the bench warmers together, and I literally fell off my couch laughing. If you haven't seen that lately, watch it because it is freaking hilarious, and it's got a lot of good baseball reference in there.
Really? I've seen it before. I like it. It's funny.
Oh,
good cast.
It's funny.
But I'll go back and watch it for you.
Yeah, do that and stay in touch with me. I'm going to get you the exact dates of our excursion in November. You're always welcome, but that one I think we would have a heck of a fun time on. Maybe we'll even bring Brad Arrington on that one and let him run some dogs for us.
Well, that would be cool. He can teach me how to use my dog.
Yeah, well, that's the big part of what you're getting ready to do is the transition period, you know, of becoming a good handler. That's why I went down there. I got to learn some tricks.
Yeah, that's important. That's important.
All right, well, do me a favor. Before the game on Friday, holler at your boy if you need any advice.
All right, yeah, I'll be sure. No, sorry.
Just have the clubhouse. I
can't even joke about
it. Just have the sports information director, the clubhouse manager, call me if you need to get me. All right.
Okay.
You might not be getting your front foot down in time. You might be dropping your back elbow.
I'll send you some video. You can critique it. I'll sort it out for you.
Just keep at it, man. I appreciate you, my man. Good luck and. Be careful tomorrow. Send me a fish if you have the ability. Can you take a selfie holding a fly rod and a trout at the same time?
We'll get a pic. We'll get a pic for you.
Are you teaming up with somebody tomorrow?
Yeah, I got friends.
Oh, I know you have friends, but I didn't know if it was a solitude day, you know?
No, I'll have some friends. I'm not going to be like right on top of them. We'll spread out. We'll be solitary together.
All right, get that 6 feet apart and get me a picture in a banded hat, a banded jacket. Did I send you some banded stuff yet? Are you wearing banded?
Yeah, I got some. I got a t-shirt. I got some waders. I got those before I knew you. Good stuff.
I got to get you some updated stuff. Plan on that when we're getting close to waterfowl season.
Okay.
That's Chuck Nasty. The bearded bearded badass with a bat. The bearded badass with a bat. That's kind of alliteration right there. Bearded badass with a bat.
Good word.
It's pretty good right there. All right, man. It's like 11:30. What time are you getting up to fly fish? Do you have to be up there in the sun?
No, it's too cold. Too cold.
Cold.
Gonna get a full night's sleep and then go.
Is your wife pissed at me for keeping you this late?
She may or may not be asleep on me right now.
All right. Well, tell her hello. I'll look at the home schedule and get a flight up to Denver and let you know when I'm going to be around so I can come to the yard. And that will be a good way for me to check out the swing and see what I need to work on with you.
I'll save you a ticket.
I appreciate that. I will talk to you soon. Charlie Blackmon, he is the man. Colorado Rockies all-star right fielder, Gold Glove winner, Silver Slugger winner, batting title winner. The man does it all, and he's so humble. That's why we love having him here. We're proud to call him a friend. Can't wait to hunt with him. This has been another episode of This Life Ain't For Everybody podcast. Check out our sister podcast, The Foul Life and Where the Payment Ends. Jack Daniels, thank you so much again for believing in our lifestyle and culture. Enjoy it responsibly. Never allow underage drinking. Tom, Jake, hit that button. This song is called What You Gonna Do When the Money's All Gone by my good friend, Leith Lofton.
I'd rather be poor living off in a hole, rich as hell without a soul. Life on earth